First of all, I'd like to thank Jill and Cork Nature Network for asking me to first attend and then to speak. I was always going to attend, but I only learned I was speaking last on Thursday, but I'll do what I can anyway to keep you entertained for the next 20 minutes. So yeah, just a basic overview of what I'll be talking about. We're now called the Local Authority Waters Programme. We used to be called the Waters and Communities Office. I'll explain that. I'll give a little bit about the River Basin Management Plan and the public consultation that was put into with the draft plan, and where we went from there with the prioritised areas for action and then the community involvement. So we started off as the Waters and Communities Office in 2016. So there was 12 community water officers employed, with 3 regional coordinators and support staff as well. So what we started off was talking to communities, I suppose, laying the groundwork about the up and coming River Basin Management Plan, talking to communities, doing public consultation. After that then we were joined by the Waters Catchment Assessment Team, and these are scientists that were employed alongside with us to do the actual on the ground work, to actually see where points of pollution were coming from, where pressures in our waters were actually coming from. That started to confuse a few things then, because who would you work for? Are you waters communities or are you catchment assessment? So like we're all working under the same umbrella, so we just call it the Waters Programme or Local Authority Waters Programme. We're called the Local Authority Waters Programme. We don't actually work, I suppose, specifically for any local authority. We work on behalf of all the local authorities. It was, I suppose you can say it's a joint project by Tipperary and Kilkenny County Council on behalf of all the local authorities, all 31 local authorities. Why were we formed? Well, it all comes down to the Water Framework Directive, as you're all well aware that, excuse me, the legal framework, I suppose, is we have to protect, we have to restore clean waters and ensure their sustainable use. There's 3 cycles of to achieve these, I suppose, what are these objectives? River Basin Management Plan has to be written. There's a River Basin Management Plan written every 6 years. The first one was in 2010. And I suppose one of the biggest learnings, there was 2 major learnings, but one of the biggest learnings that I could see anyway was there was minimal community engagement, and Europe saw that as well. That there was the communities weren't being spoken to, they even saw from submissions coming up that basically there wasn't awareness about the plan, and there wasn't engagement with the communities regarding the plan as well. I suppose another big output from that, another big learning, was the scientific knowledge wasn't up to scratch either. So in the second cycle, which was meant to have been published in 2016, it's 2 years late, so it was only published last year. But we tried to, I suppose, engage with the community a bit more. And when we went out and engaged with the community, the first thing we ever told people, I suppose, was the first line of the directive, is that water is not a commercial product like any other, but it's a heritage which must be protected, defended, and treated as such. Article 14 of the directive, it's basically encouraging all who are interested to get actively involved. And that's just not the agencies, or it's not just the NGOs, it's everybody. Whether you're in a tidy towns, whether you're an individual who lives by a river, if you're an interested party, you should try to get involved in protecting and, I suppose, restoring our rivers in whatever little way you can. As of 2015, this is the status of our waters. It's not looking great, but as was said at the start, as Rachel said, we've lost a lot of our high status rivers, but we've also lost a good share of our bad status rivers, and there's actually 2 water bodies. A water body, I suppose, is a monitoring point to a monitoring point, so it could be a lake or it could be from one bridge to another. But we've only 2 bad status water bodies in the country now. So there are, I suppose, it's starting to get squeezed into the middle. We are losing our good ones, but we're also losing our bad ones as well. So what we're trying to do, I suppose, is the bottom-up approach. I suppose a lot of people might have the feeling that agencies and governments are putting out plans and telling everyone what to do. Well, we're trying to actually, I suppose, rally the troops to a certain extent and to raise awareness about water issues. There are, I suppose, there are tidy towns, there are community councils, there's Cork Nature Network, Cork Environmental Forum. They're all trying to, I suppose, do what they can to improve the water quality in their area or in their county or in their catchment. But there are a lot of communities that just don't know what to do. They don't know how to approach people or agencies. They don't know who to talk to. So I suppose that's what my job is in County Cork, is to raise awareness, first of all, what are the state of our rivers and what people can do, but also then help them with projects, find funding for them and stuff like that. We're also, we also try to support Rivers Trusts and catchment groups, the startup of Rivers Trusts and catchment groups. And we have a small fund as well to help with Rivers Trusts to, I suppose, get their foot in the door and get a bit of funding with administration costs. We engage very closely with the rural development companies. I'm actually ex-rural development company. I worked with Ireland Hollow in North Cork on a river restoration project. And we also work with the various agencies. So like, it's not just me talking to the communities, but I have to act as liaison as well with communities talking to the various agencies as well. So as I said, there's 12 of us around the country, excuse me. I cover County Cork and a little bit of Waterford as well, because the black water doesn't really follow county lines, so I have to go in there as well. So like, I don't mind. It's nice to get out and explore the scenery. So there's 12 of us anyway, and yeah, we work with the local authorities. So I'm based in Ascari in the environmental department with Cork County Council. I have a desk there. I don't work with them, I work for them. I don't work for them, I work with them. I work with them. But we also work with the catchment assessment team, and they're only they're barely a year. So I suppose the country is divided into 5 regions. So the southwest, we have 6 scientists and a catchment manager, and what their job is to go out to these areas for action. I'll explain what an area for action is, and to exactly pinpoint where pollution is coming from, where these pressures are actually coming from. And that's just a structure, I suppose, of the Waters programme. And it's Kilkenny and Tipperary, as I said, that are leading the project. When we go out to communities, when we talk to anyone, like, we're not just talking about the stretch of river that flows past their garden or that flows past through their town. We want to, as has been said throughout the morning, that it's all about the catchment. And when I talk to people, I say, who's responsible for the upkeep of our waters? Who's responsible for maintaining or for improving our water? Who's responsible for polluting it? And it's everybody. Everybody is responsible. Whether you're someone who goes to the beach, someone who fishes along the river, or you have a septic tank, it's your responsibility to make sure that what's going into that water is clean from your septic tank. You're taking away your litter. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as littering. That we're trying to, I suppose, like, I go to schools and that's the biggest thing for them is littering, because that's all, I suppose, that's what we've been taught is don't litter, don't litter. But there's more to that. And I suppose that's what I'm trying to put across. So the draft river basin management plan, as I mentioned, I had to do public consultations. We were charged with doing that. So there was 13 in County Cork, 124 done nationally. For the first cycle of the plan, there was 50 submissions made by the public. For the second cycle, there was nearly 1,000, and 10% of them came from Cork. So our awareness raising anyway is working. So more submissions are coming from the public to I suppose cause more of a headache for the department. And the issues that were brought up, basically anything you can think of was an issue that was brought up. But flooding was a very major one, and actually flooding was the most commonly identified impact of concern on a national level, for the West especially so, also for the Southwest. So all those submissions and everything else from the various agencies and NGOs was put together and published into the River Basin Management Plan 2018 to 2021. As I said, it was 2 years late. And I suppose regarding flooding, this is a copy and paste from the actual plan. The EPA intends to fund further research on natural water retention measures, as was mentioned, and it's to explore new measures, but also consider existing measures that can be adapted. Measures in the flood risk management plans signposted the need for the OPW to work with the EPA, as Mary basically has gone through all of that really. But there's other expected outcomes out of that as well. There's lots of investment going in. There's 1.7 billion being invested into wastewater infrastructure. 43 special staff there, the investigative staff, the new scientists I've mentioned. There's 30 of them in place plus the 5 catchment managers, but there's also a little wiggle room because a lot of them, I suppose, are based, their expertise are on rivers or on groundwater, but we're going to come across, obviously we're going to come across lakes. That's a really expertise, we really need expertise for that, or even for coastal waters as well. So we have a little wiggle room that if our scientists don't exactly know, that we have a bit of a budget to bring in consultants as well. There's a really good new program called the Agricultural Sustainability Support and Advice Program. ASAP is what we're calling it, and it's a collaboration between Teagasc and 10 major co-ops. So there's going to be 20 people from Teagasc and 10 from the co-ops. And what they do is all to do with these areas for action as well. If it's found that a problem is agricultural, it's going to be different. So if we're dealing different than if it was a problem with industry or something like that. So if there's, let's say if it was one farm and there's a problem coming from that farm, well then someone from the ASAP group will go and talk to them confidentially, talk to them for free, and basically said, right, this is a problem, what do you think we could do, how can we work together to fix it? They don't have to do it, but more times out, 9 times out of 10 they are going to want to fix it, because no one really intentionally wants to, I suppose, pollute the waters, especially the waters that they're going to be looking at every day. There's a Blue Dots catchment program. That's basically a new program that will start for our high status water bodies. We have to prevent degradation of our high status water bodies. So as for the high status objective, so for the rivers, I suppose, and the lakes that mightn't be high status at the moment, but historically have been high status, trying to bring them up and then try to protect the ones that are high status. There's a new grant scheme that will come out for septic tanks, and these are all to do with these blue dot catchments and areas for action as well. And we have our own fund to help with communities to do whatever local projects they can do. The priority areas for action, they were just, I suppose, we came by them, I suppose, there was workshops, characterisation workshops in 2017, where the local authorities, EPA and Inland Fisheries Ireland, sat down, and we'll just say for Cork, so they sat down and they went through every single water body in Cork, and they said, is it at risk of failing to meet its objective, or is it not at risk? So they made a list of all the ones that are at risk, and then they did a workshop with all the other agencies, and they said, right, now we have to prioritise where we're going to go. So 190 were prioritised for that. And I suppose that's just the southwest, showing you the good and the high and everything beneath that. And that's what the red is at risk, the green is not at risk. So there's plenty of at risk that we just didn't have the resources to attack. So we had to prioritise 50 in the southwest. There's 22 in Cork, and that's just a better picture. So I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the Lee catchment, and one of them is the Upper Lee, where the studies for the flood retention measures have been already discussed. So our scientists will go out. Well, first of all, they'll do a desk study. Whatever information they can gather from the EPA and for anyone else, even from local knowledge, they'll do a desk study. I suppose to try and get a picture in their mind about what's actually happening, what the catchment might look like. And then we have to do a public meeting to let the community know what we're about, what we're up to, why we're there. And after meeting with the community and meeting with the farmers, the catchment team, the assessment team, they'll go out and they'll do their assessment. And basically it's going to be kick sampling, doing water samples, and they're going to be walking up. They might see a tributary where they'll do a kick sample, everything's fine, they'll move on to the next tributary, something's going on, they'll follow that tributary until they find exactly where they need to go. And I suppose it's all about the right measure in the right place. And it's working not just with the community and raising awareness, but it's there's a regional structure to this as well. We're not just going out on a county level and doing this. This all has to be reported back up to the department, really. So we're here at the local authorities programme. We report to the Southwest Regional Committee, so there's an operational committee that includes all the various agencies. And we're, I suppose, not only reporting what we're finding, but if we're finding difficulties with an agency, if we're finding difficulties with an industry, we can talk about it there and we can discuss various ways we can do that. And if it can't be settled there, it goes into the management. It can eventually go up into the Water Policy Advisory Committee, and that's made up of the various government agencies and departmental. But also feeding into that is the Water Forum on Forum Ishka. Cork Environmental Forum are sitting on that, Swan are sitting on that. And they're the NGOs, they're the public side, I suppose, that help with policy making as well. So when I talk to communities about what they can get involved in, there's lots of different things they can get involved in. It depends what they're looking for, what their scope is, what their experience is in projects. So there's various ones there. I suppose with water retention, just planting trees. Does Forest Service have loads of grants at the moment for landowners, like the Woodlands for Waters, the National or Native Woodland Scheme. Leaky dams and silt traps, I've worked on these up in North Cork. Or just maintaining wetlands as well, not reclaiming the land. There were two what's called EIPs, environmental or European Innovation Projects, that were they were applied for funding from Europe, from in County Cork. Unfortunately, two of them didn't get picked, but one of them did. One of them got the fund, the other one unfortunately didn't. But the one that did get picked, Ireland do Hollow, they're trying to put in a few, I suppose, flood measures as well. Small things like those leaky dams, small things like those silt traps, or even constructing wetlands again. And that is, I suppose, what these are payment scales as well. So the farmers will actually be given a few bob for these things. Our own fund, we have this very small fund. It's only 185,000 nationally. In 2018, we had 104 applications. In 2019, we had 152. If we were able to fund all 152, we would have been handing over $500,000. So it's very oversubscribed. 16 applications in Cork with 9 receiving. Cork Nature Network got a few bob off us for a biodiversity awareness project. But there's various things that community groups have put together. Fencing of a riverbank, €1,000. Got permission from the landowner, fenced off the riverbank up to 2 metres, planted a few trees. A feasibility study in Dunmanway to figure out exactly what's going on with the river that's going to Dunmanway and see what they can do to improve it. And then invasive species, awareness raising, lots of different projects that we actually help fund. I suppose when you get to the core of it, we're all about public participation. And it's not just, we're here to talk about our flood mitigation, we're also talking about water quality. But it's not about that either, not all about that. It's about the health and well-being of the people that are living by these waters as well, and that's what we're trying to promote. I think we are in this together. Our remit is to help communities with and work with agencies to improve water quality, and a lot of the measures then to prevent floods. These flood prevention measures also prevent pollution of our waters as well. So if we have the funds, we'll definitely help. I always use this quote when I'm doing public talking, and I think it's true. It's the people here that it's not the plans that are going to be written. It's the people here that will go out and save these rivers. This is my last slide now, and I just have to do it. I suppose there's an awful plague affecting our crayfish in the country. So far, it hasn't reached Cork, but there's plenty of rivers in Cork with crayfish in them. So basically, if you're water users, clean your equipment before you go into the next river. That's basically and make sure that you're not carrying over. It's all about biosecurity. And that's me.